Warzone Mobile is finally here, and with a few hands-on impressions today, we got to play Verdansk, we got to check out everything they're trying to achieve with this mobile variant of Warzone, and get some early impressions as to whether or not this is something that could actually be somewhat of the future of Warzone. I got hands-on for a couple of hours today, and it really gave me a good sense of feel for where Warzone Mobile is at, where it needs to be, and whether or not it's something that's really worth your time. Today's video is brought to you by ACA Predator. They sent me out their ACA Predator Helios 16 laptop, which comes with 1 month of Xbox Game Pass included out of the box, which allows you to dive into hundreds of games available the second you get your hands on it. The laptop comes with a 240Hz Quad HD panel for competitive level gaming and general fluidity on the go, that is powered by an Intel i9 13900HX and an NVIDIA RTX 4080. So whether you're looking to play the latest AAA releases on Xbox Game Pass or achieve the highest possible frame rates in competitive titles available on Game Pass, the ACA Predator Helios 16 will absolutely tick those boxes. You can check it out in a link in the description below, as well as a link to a giveaway to win over £2,000 worth of ACA Predator gear. So the first thing that's always worth talking about is the maps themselves. Rebirth Island and Verdansk both feature in Warzone Mobile, and I gotta say, it's actually pretty cool. Going back into these nostalgic settings, going and landing in things like ATC, Superstore, Stadium, Prison, stuff like that is just unrivaled in terms of the Warzone experience, and seeing them back in the game for the first time, even though it's a mobile variant of the game, was actually uniquely quite enjoyable. There was something really enjoyable about going through all the places that we've been through in the past, and I can see them being big pull factors for this game. Being able to play Verdansk and being able to play the actual Rebirth Island maps were before any modifications, before Verdansk 84, before Rebirth Island got modded and changed in certain ways, is a really unique experience that, although we've done it before, it was worth doing again. There's a bit of a mental clash in terms of how it all works and comes together. I mean, you've got Modern Warfare 3 weapons, Modern Warfare 2 weapons, but you've also got equipment like stopping power from the original Modern Warfare 2019. So it's like the three games have had this kind of hybrid experience. And in some ways that's really cool, and obviously you have cross progression with console and PC, which is really nice to see. But in other ways it's very, very confusing. It's like the two experiences don't quite meld perfectly together. And there are times where I'm picking up Modern Warfare 2 guns off the floor and I'm almost a little confused as to what I'm supposed to be doing. It's kind of strange to see the three genres and generations in one space. And although that won't be a huge issue for most people, I think if you're somebody who's familiar with Verdansk as it was, playing against Big Berthas, for example, whilst using Modern Warfare 2 weapons on a Verdansk map with a Modern Warfare 3 secondary can get a little confusing in your head. A standout category for Warzone Mobile for me is the number of options. The control options, the HUD options. At the moment in this game, you can pretty much customize everything you want on a controller front except for dead zones, and the full controller layout itself still needs to be customizable. Those are two things that are missing, and in my view, they do make a big difference if you're somebody playing on controller. But in terms of controls for touchscreen and in terms of people who are playing just using touchscreen and gyro, it's looking really, really solid. And much like the gold standard of PUBG Mobile, everything is movable and everything is adjustable. You can change all of your controller settings in terms of interface, interactions, you can move the HUD, you can move the buttons, everything can have context to it, you can have the automations for the game off and on, and all of those create a really good quality of life situation. For a game that's just released, to have pretty much decent comparability to something like PUBG Mobile in terms of settings is a really good place to be. I would like to see controller dead zones, and I would like to see more options to remap certain buttons, but for the most part, whether you're a touchscreen player or a controller player, everything's quite a seamless experience, and being able to make a minimal HUD is probably one of the best things I've seen in the game so far, and one of the features that definitely stood out to me. So now that we've spoken about the map and the options, how is this game different? How does it feel different from what we've played before? How is it any different from anything you've played before? For the most part, it's a mobile game, so you'll notice that straight away. Graphics, frame rate, performance are all very important things, which we will talk about slightly later on in this video. But there are a couple of weird nuances of the gameplay. So like, for example, at this moment, you don't have the ability to slide cancel as fluidly as you would anticipate. The movement speed is a little bit strange. It's somewhat of an in-between of Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3. There are other things as well, like interacting with certain objects sometimes get a bit janky. But in terms of gameplay, the time to kill feels very different. aiming on a controller on a mobile game or even with touchscreen seems to have a radically different aim assist. And there's going to be metas that emerge because this is a mobile game. Vehicles are going to become very popular. High magazine weapons that allow you to miss a few more shots than you normally would are going to be very popular. So from a gameplay standpoint, it feels very Warzone, but some of the dynamics are a little less Warzone. You know, things like running around with big bulky LMG mags, snipers being incredibly powerful when people can see the glints very minimally. There are just some metas and some meta shifts that are going to be specific to the mobile experience, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is a very different thing. So if you're expecting this to play exactly like Urzikstan, if you're expecting it to play exactly like the current iteration of Warzone, that's not the case. It will feel like it, but it will also feel very different, and that's worth remembering. You know, you aren't just going to be able to run in with your favorite, you know, HMR SMG from Modern Warfare 3 and clean up the place. It might be that there are certain secondaries or class combinations or perk package combinations that make more sense on mobile than they do in the current Warzone environment. Next up, we have to talk about performance, because this is a big one for pretty much all mobile gamers, and obviously not everybody is touting the most recent iPhone or the most recent iPad or using the latest Google Pixel, so on and so forth. Now, I've played this on both an iPhone 14 Pro Max and also on a Google Pixel 8 Pro, which are fairly high-end devices, and it was a very smooth experience. I didn't have a huge amount of issues, except for when I was live streaming, but the live stream setup in itself introduced its own problems. So that wasn't the fault of the game, rather it was the fault of having to set it up for a media environment. When you're playing it by itself without, you know, casting it or pass-throughing it to a different device to stream it, it's a very smooth experience. But I haven't heard that to be the case for everyone. Now, Warzone Mobile does use a system where progressively playing more games loads in more textures and effectively builds up a texture map of the map akin to on-demand texture streaming and shader caching that you've experienced in regular Warzone. Now, for some people, after a couple of games, the game runs really smoothly and it works really well. But other people, depending on their devices, it's not been as smooth an experience. Now, mobile games are a minefield. You've got multiple different types of chips. You've got Google Tensor chips. You've got Samsung Exynos chips. You've got Snapdragon chips. You've got the iPhone A15, 16, A17. You've got the M1 and M2 chips. Things change a lot from device to device, and because of that, getting universally good performance can be a little bit questionable. Now, there is a max graphics mode for people who are using things like M1 and M2 iPads, and it does look phenomenal, but frame rate is arguably more important, and having a smooth experience is more important. And right now, honestly, it seems to be a luck of the draw. For some people, it's been really, really good. For other people, it hasn't been ideal, and I'm hoping between today and the next few weeks, we'll see some more optimization pushes that puts the game in a better place. But if you are running the latest device or latest devices over the last few years, you should have good enough performance to play this game smoothly. Now, for some people, that isn't the case, and you're going to have a pretty rough time. For other people, it's going to be the case, and you're going to enjoy being able to play Warzone in a mobile environment. And I guess that brings me to my big question. Is it worth playing? Now, honestly, it's actually a hard question to answer, because for most people who play mobile games, they do it because it's their primary form of doing so. You know, they are people who might not necessarily have a console, might not necessarily have a PC. They're just playing it because it's an easy way for them to enjoy a good version of a game on a mobile device. And for that, it's actually a pretty true-to-life Warzone experience in terms of what Warzone offers. You are playing something that feels like Warzone. Now, for people who play on console and PC already, there are obvious step backs, graphically, frame rate-wise, performance-wise, but if you're just trying to play a bit of Warzone on the go and those things don't necessarily matter too much to you, then for the vast majority of people who have compatible devices that play it fairly well, you will have a pretty good time. Like, this is playing Warzone on the go. It's Rebirth Island on the go. The matchmaking is super quick. You get into matches super fast. You leave games as quickly as you join them. And ultimately, it just feels like Warzone on the go. Now, yes, you won't have the shiniest graphics. You won't be pushing 240 frames like you can on PC, or you won't always be hitting 120 at 1440p. But the reality is that for most mobile gamers, that's never mattered anyway. A decently smooth experience is enough for the vast majority of people, and just being able to play Warzone, Rebirth Island, and Verdansk is actually pretty fun. I can see myself playing this a fair bit over the next couple of weeks and possibly the next couple of months. I'm not a devout mobile gamer, I'm not going to lie to you guys, it's not something that always comes up to me, but I do enjoy the odd game on the go. I do have an ROG Ally.
the equivalent of something like a Steam Deck, and the appeal of being able to play something whilst chilling out and waiting for something does exist for me. Now, whether you're somebody who just wants to play it whilst you're on the school run, in between lectures, waiting for something, or just chilling, they even have modes that cater towards faster load-in times, smaller modes, quicker matches, and even multiplayer maps as well, which is pretty insane. For the most part, I think this is a good first outing. Performance is going to be the biggest knockback for this thing. For those of you out there who can enjoy smoothest of performances in Warzone Mobile, it's going to be a lot of fun. For those of you dealing with incompatibility issues or the game just being sluggish, or for whatever reason your device just doesn't want to play ball, it can be a little bit frustrating, especially when there are alternatives on the market for mobile that do just work. So that's about it for Warzone Mobile, folks. Let me know your thoughts and feelings in the comment section below. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.